Hi, my name is Zach Benson. I have an album called Music for You and Your Friends coming out May 17th. Indie pop, rock and roll, pop music. Yeah, that's me. I had this really weird process with this album where it was like visual first. Like I'm really into like Maggie Rogers, and she said in her last album that she would like mood board what she wanted the album to sound like, but she did it with like textures and colors and visuals and things, and I was like, let me try. And so I was like, if I were to make an album, what would I want it to look like? What would I want it to feel like? What's like the space that I want it to exist in? And it was like a 1970s like wood panel basement, like straight out of like you got home from summer camp and you're with all your best friends like in your mom's basement or something. And so I kind of had to reverse engineer that for the music and be like, if it looks like this like 1970s basement, then it should sound a little bit like what was playing in the 70s. Whenever I'm working with other people, especially like other songwriters, it feels very like classic songwriting. It's like usually 2 or 3 people with like an acoustic guitar or piano, like trying to make something, and then I'm usually the one doing production, so I usually try to create the world around that. So from a songwriting perspective, I guess it's a little bit less of trying to explain what it is and just sort of coming away from the songwriting session, making the song and being like, this is where I think this song lives, if that makes sense. I did work with a mixing and mastering engineer, and I did send a lot of like Beatles, and especially like that like late 2000s kind of like hipstery twee kind of moment that was happening. For some reason, like when I started writing this album, I was really into like the Ting Tings for no reason, which is like a name I hadn't heard in like 15 years, but like it was like them, it was like Feist. Remember that song 1, 2, 3, 4? I had this like month where I was like, this is the best song I've ever heard in my entire life, like recently. So I don't know. Yeah, I think my language whenever I have a musical idea is just to like make a playlist and send it to somebody. So that's usually what I did. Oh my gosh, when you're listening to music for you and your friends, I think you should be in a room like this. This is probably the perfect space for it. Laying down, preferably around a few of your friends. And you need to be in like, I don't know, like oranges and browns and reds for some reason. You just need to be surrounded by warm colors. I think that's the vibe. Truly, I've like always wanted to do vinyl. I've never gotten to do vinyl. So this is the first time that I've done that. I really thought it would just be like a simple upload your files to someone process, and it's 100% not. And it took me a long time to figure out. Me and Ryan Schumer, who mastered the album, like went back and forth for so long about what we wanted the vinyl to sound like, what would be like logistically possible to put on vinyl. And yeah, I'm just really stoked on it. Like being able to like make the cover art and everything for it too, just felt very special and cool, and like fulfilling a little like 12-year-old boy's dream of having an album on vinyl. So I'm stoked on it. My friend Chris Walsh did it. He's a great photographer. He's also a set designer. So the album cover, he actually built that whole set like in his apartment, like put up the wood panel, brought out his bed, like hung a fucking shelf on the wall. Like he's crazy. He does incredibly like gorgeous set portrait photography. Yeah, I told him the vision. He, for some reason, had like this old TV and all these old like 1970s props. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And I don't know, I think the album cover kind of lives in that world and also kind of leans into the like pop star fantasy of it all. Like half of the album I feel like is very much that like basement sitting with all your friends, and the other half is like the fantasy, like you're in front of fucking 20,000 people playing music, which is why I think I like have been calling myself a pop star for the last like year of my life. I'm like, let's just like lean into the fantasy of it all. Like, why not?